You're a startup founder. You think your product is amazing and feel like more people should be buying, but the road is long and slow. It feels like you're stuck. There's always one thing I ask startup founders. Have you talked to your customers? They almost always say, heck yes, we talk to our customers all the time. But what I find is they're either selling or trying to improve their product. These are not customer-focused conversations. If we can get curious about our customers, then we can uncover critical insights that will help us build to the next round. I'm Anna Firmenov, and welcome to Building with Buyers, a show about startup growth where I'll explore how customers help startups build to the next round. Natalie, you're like my all-star. Welcome back to the show. You're my all-star guest. I was just saying, Natalie Marcotullio is head of growth and product marketing at Navattic. Congrats on the new title. Of course, we'll talk about that a bit. And Navattic makes buying easier with interactive demos. So prospects get hands-on product access without having to schedule a sales call. Natalie, thanks. You're always on here and it's always fun, and I'm happy to have you back, and thanks for joining me again.
I'm honored to be back. I hope listeners aren't bored of my voice at this point. Hopefully I have some new things to say, but it's always such a delight chatting with you, Anna.
You always have wonderful things to say, and so last time it was a great conversation with Raman as well, episode 218, where we talked about launching the Free Forever plan. You've also been on for episode 139, Be the Company That Seems to Be Everywhere, and episode 180, Podcast Ads Positioning and What's the ROI of all of those different things. And so the listener can definitely decide to listen to those. Navattic is seed funded, so I wanted to call that out. And on the show, I'm exploring the role that customers play in helping startups build to the next round. So that goes beyond revenue. Of course, customers help startups with revenue, right? That's the whole idea. But beyond revenue, beyond case studies and testimonials, I'm trying to dig into what else is going on there. And so I of course wanted to talk to you about this amazing event that you threw. Let's go back to November 2024, the Navattic Fanatic Customer Event in New York City. So what would you say was your goal? I loved that event, by the way. I still remember it like it was yesterday, and such good feelings and great video content from it. But what was your goal for the event? And maybe you can talk through that, and did you actually achieve it?
Yeah. So the goal was definitely a little more, I'd say, like fandom driven. So I don't have, crazy ROI numbers or like hard metrics to present. But really for us, our entire marketing strategy, which I've talked about in other episodes, is based off word of mouth. And when you think about word of mouth marketing, happy customer referrals, a lot of that is celebrating your biggest fans and customers. And on our side, we've seen that the buying experience, people are just going to like text a few friends to figure out what they should buy. They just want to say like, hey, I saw that this, marketing leader that I talked to at a conference uses Navattic, so I'm just going to use it. So really our goal was like, how can we celebrate those super happy customers? And then how can we get them even more knowledgeable in all the different ways they could be using Navattic and let them learn from one another? We've also seen our customers constantly just want to like hear from other customers how they're using Navattic. They just want to see like other cool use cases. So really the main goals were like celebrate the customers and let them learn from each other.
Yeah. Okay. So it was really, when I said what I said, like when I was on that video and they're like, what did you like about this event? And I'm like, hanging out with people. That was actually the goal, is to meet everyone, right? Hang out with everyone and also get some learnings. And do you feel like that was achieved? Like what did you hear from customers? What did they say?
Yeah, I think anecdotally, the one thing that was really cool was we did have, and this was actually our video team's idea, but we had customers talk about what they got out of the event afterwards and advisors. And we heard a lot of them say, like, I learned X new use cases. Like I was only using for Navattic for the website use case, and this expanded my horizons of how I could use that. And we've seen those same customers come back around to their CS team, follow up and said, hey, I went to the event. I now want to learn more about this use case. Or we've even had some like upsell come out of it. So definitely did see that those who attended just learned a lot from the other people there, whether through the presentations, whether through chatting during the breaks, and have expanded their usage since then.
Yeah, I mean, when I was there and I was looking at how deeply engaged customers were, people were scribbling notes. People were like really listening. They're just trying to get better at this stuff. And it's not easy, right? You might have scratched the surface, but you don't know what else can be accomplished. And I think people really genuinely just wanted to learn, like, what am I missing? Where else can I use it? I'm just using it on the website, but I could use it at conferences, right? How do I throw that together? What's the best practice with this type of way to use interactive demos? So I think that there was a yearning to learn and to improve, which makes sense, I think, for why it was actually successful. Because if people were just kind of there to network, but not really interested in learning, then it wouldn't have actually taken off for what you achieved after the event, right? But so I just wanted to call that out. What do you think made it successful? Like, it's not easy to throw an event. What did you have to do to make it engaging, to make it something where like people flew in from all over and you didn't want to waste their time, obviously. So, what do you think made it successful?
I think a big thing was the lead up before the event, and not just like the prep work, but part of what this was a celebration for a 6-month long Navattic Fanatic program that we had been running, where for our top power users and customers, we were doing challenges once a month that might be around beta testing or might be around you beta test this, give us a quote about this new product or how you use it so we can include for enablement for other customers. Maybe it was something with like posting on LinkedIn. It was a few different types of challenges. And there was an internal score system. So we were constantly reminding the fanatics, who was on top, giving them gifts, giving them celebrations, shout outs. But really for 6 months, we had been prefacing that there was going to be a big event leading up to the end of this. So we got customers to sort of know each other, be familiar with each other before the event, and it made sure that our top power users were at the event, because one of the rewards for participating in the challenges and being at the top of the leaderboard was you got a free hotel at the event, a hotel room. So I think all that being said, you brought up how people were really eager to learn and how there was a lot of information sharing. That's because we had our top power users in the room and we had done all the work beforehand to make sure that those users would be in the room. We actually didn't invite any prospects to the main workshop style part of the event. And that was intentional because we wanted to have those really in-depth, deep conversations. Like there were conversations happening about Navattic intent data that I couldn't follow. And I consider myself a pretty big Navattic expert. Like that's how in the weeds some customers are getting with each other. And we had some customers who were like 1 and 2 on the leaderboard who had seen each other before, who were like joking around about like, oh, next year I'm going to get you, I'm going to win, and talking. So I think making it more niche, like a lot of what we think about our marketing is like obviously really specific messaging that will resonate, but making it more niche of really it was Navattic power users and fans, let them sort of just like geek out about Navattic together.
Yeah, that's if you didn't get that, Natalie, imagine me. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so behind on this, right? But it was really cool to see people geeking out on it and people getting really excited about it. And it just makes you feel really good. Like, oh my gosh, we're building this for a reason. Look at how much our customers love this and want to dig into it, right? So anything that you would say, and also let me just touch on the fact that a lot of the event success was attributed to before. So spending time on the before. Who are you going to invite? Right? That makes or breaks the event. Who gets invited, make gamifying the experience, right? That's also really creative. And then understanding that folks that are customers, they're kind of competitive. I mean, they are, right? Like just knowing that that's just who you're dealing with here and they would appreciate this sort of friendly competition. That's something that you also had to have that knowledge in order to build something like that for them. And people seem to like that. So just wanted to also mention that that's big, that what you do before the event is just as important as what you do during, is just as important as what you do after the fact, which we'll talk about. Anything that surprised you, like there's planning to be done, right? Leading up to the event, but there's only so much planning that you could do. Any like surprises from what you learned or from what you saw?
I don't know if I was fully surprised by this, but it was a little bit of a bet we took. Was I talked a lot about the prep beforehand. During the actual event, I also really wanted to make it like, because the main focus was getting customers to know each other, it was like a lot of breaks, a lot of downtime, very short presentations, only one presentation from a member of the Navattic team, workshop style. And it was 2 days, but really probably like only a few hours of content. Like, it wasn't stacked out the entire day. And a bit of my bet is like, the conferences that go all day, you are exhausted by the end and you're not retaining anything. I'd rather be more selective about what we show our attendees than overwhelm them with so much information. And I think that's a lot of times because of events, you have sponsors, you have to make sure every sponsor has a slot, and then you have to make sure other people have slots. But my bet was sort of like, okay, what if we give them, what if it's not as packed? Will that mean that there's more organic networking, getting to know each other? And will that mean people are more focused during the presentations? And I would say that was also a big win and thing I was really happy about the event is multiple people told me like, it was so like, it's funny. It started at like 10 a.m. and people almost like couldn't believe it. They're like, it was so nice. It started at 10. I actually had my morning to do work. I wasn't stressed. I could sleep in. I could enjoy New York. That was another thing. We also did not do it in Midtown New York. We did it in a cool neighborhood so people could actually enjoy it.
Remember yoga, Natalie?
We did some yoga.
We did some yoga. Like, we actually had time on this trip to do yoga. Like, that's amazing. And I think that it was really smart to just like, also, you kind of need to get away from this stuff to let your mind process things, right? In order to come back and have really useful conversations and think about, work related topics. So I think that's helpful too.
Definitely. Just like don't overwhelm people and they'll be in a better mood and get more out of the information you give them.
Totally. What would you change if there was anything that you would do differently for next time? And I imagine this one went well, right? So I imagine that you're going to want to do more of this, but what would you change for next time?
Yeah, I'd say it's something we're actually currently thinking about. Honestly, the biggest thing is I think we just realized that like the problem with event-based like marketing and conferences is you can only get so many people. So we want to turn this into a little more of a roadshow where we'll do smaller events. And we found that the best talks during the event were those customer show and tells. Like the workshops and everything did well, but people just like loved learning from other customers. So bringing that, doing smaller workshop styles in more cities, just so that we can reach more customers.
Are you going to come to Chicago?
Chicago is on the short list.
Yes. Selfishly. So let's talk about, we talked about the before, the during, right? A lot of the value is from customers actually talking through how they use Navattic and in different ways, in different contexts, and geeking out on it, right? What about after the event? It's oftentimes the most important because like the event itself is kind of short, right? How do you make the event last beyond this one was 2 days.
Honestly, we talked about the presentations, but recording those and recording those high quality, that was the biggest thing. So also an advice for anyone thinking about getting events, get an AV person and like maybe talk to them beforehand about what they need because AV was probably one of the last things on my list and kind of came together a little last minute. And at the conference, the guy was like, wait, you have 3 different presentation styles? These should all be PowerPoint. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. So little things like that, which I wish I knew for next time. But honestly, having those recordings, because we basically got like 8 different customer testimonials. They weren't exactly testimonials, but they were customers talking about how they used Navattics and the results they got. Kind of similar, but honestly in a more entertaining fashion. We got like 8 of those out of that event. And you also got to see other customers in the audience reacting, getting excited. We got short little promo videos that again talk through what people got out of the event or just seeing people interact with one another. So we've been really using that content for whenever we have a customer prospect come in who says, hey, I want to use Navattic for, let's say, a conference use case. Not only do we have like quote unquote case study, but we have a video from a conference where we showed someone talking through that use case. And so then in the prospect's mind, not only are you like, hey, Navattic just showed me the exact use case I'm looking for, but they're also thinking, wait, Navattic also throws cool events. I kind of want to go to an event like that. Like you're kind of planting the seed of what it means to be a customer beyond just the software you're buying.
That is such a great point. You are planting the seed. You're planting a seed of like, this is how you would be treated if we work together. And it's an unspoken thing, but it does matter and it's part of your brand promise. And I think that's really smart. I wanted to just mention that I've been working with a client and they used Navattic to showcase their product at a conference because they do a bunch of conferences. And so I wouldn't have really thought about that, and linking the two pieces together if I didn't see that really memorable presentation from the customer that does awesome conference use case for using Navattic and how it's part of the experience as people walk by the booth, right? Of course, when she talked about it, it was like a different level of cool. But I think even getting to like 25% of that is super just really useful knowledge that translates to like immediate, what can we do with this information? I think that's probably what customers loved about this. You get the learnings and you can immediately apply them that day or the next day. Like people were sitting on their laptops and like changing copy in their interactive demo or working on their plan for what they're going to do with the interactive demo and thinking about demo center and thinking about, right? It's like immediately you can apply the learnings. So,
and the last thing I'll just plug there, I think that's why we want to do maybe more and in certain cities, because part of that was like smaller conferences. And I think this is a big trend I'm seeing with conferences in general. We did not invent the like do smaller conferences. But what's so cool is this person who gave a presentation about using it at conferences. You can just go up and ask them, like, hey, what were your first steps? How did you think about this? There wasn't this like disconnect between speakers and attendees. It was the person sitting next to you at a table.
absolutely. I like this small conference format. Are the conferences you're going to like, you're noticing they're smaller?
Yeah, I'm going to a lot of conferences that are like 100 to maybe 300, 400 people. I really don't go to like anything that's even like 500 plus.
Yeah, totally. I'm going to a Spark Together in October. And I think that one's also, well, first of all, they're not recording any of it, which I find interesting because it's like what they're trying to do is keep it on the down low, right? Everything that happens here stays here, sort of like that kind of vibe, which I mean, it has a place, right? And that's why people will go there. They won't have the content ride longer though, because they're not recording it and you can't really talk about it outside of that event. But it's also going to be smaller, more intimate. And I'm looking forward to that actually. So we've talked about this customer event and it's awesome. And I think it's a really smart strategic move for you guys. Any other ways that you're incorporating customers into your business strategy or marketing that goes beyond this customer event?
Yeah, I think this customer event kind of just showed how we typically think about our marketing. It's just like customer first, like spotlight the customer. When someone asks again, like, how would I use Navattic for this use case? Rather than saying, oh, you'd use these 10 cool features, it's let me show you an example from a customer explaining it. Even on our LinkedIn, a lot of our content is just literally customer shout outs of cool demos. Our blog content, we're constantly highlighting customer examples. Like in general, we really just try to lead with like, see how our customers are doing it. So I think it honestly was just sort of like a continuation of that mindset of rather than talking about us, talk about the customer.
Yeah. I'm really excited because one thing that is coming from all these conversations on this podcast, and I've had numerous conversations already, is I'm putting together a 30 days of customer obsession calendar. So it's literally like a calendar, 30 days. What can you do to actually be customer obsessed? Because people say that they're customer obsessed. Let me tell you, there are few companies, startups, that are actually customer obsessed. Because when you're customer obsessed, you are functioning and operating like a Navattic company, right? When you're not, you're saying that you are, but you're actually not. And so, this calendar, every day I have ideas for how to act, in a way that is not just saying I'm customer obsessed. And it's from different ideas that people have talked about, including, right, the customer event that you throw, including, well, I'm not going to tell you everything, Natalie, but I will once this is available and I'll share it. And I think what I'm going to do is probably do a podcast episode on it, kind of putting together all the pieces and how you can think about if you were to push customer obsession in 1 month, what that might look like. So I'm excited about that.
I love that because I feel like customer marketing is one of those things, and I'm sure that's why you're doing this podcast, that like everyone's like a good marketer talks to their customer, understand their customers, but no one really explains how to do customer marketing. We just think of it as like, okay, maybe we send some gifts to our customers or a newsletter for them. But I love the very tactical, like here's something you can do every day to become more customer obsessed.
Yeah, it goes beyond case studies and testimonials,
Hmm.
which you should be doing, right? But that's just tip of the iceberg, or even sending an appreciative card or cupcake or whatever. You can, but there's so much more where it really is about customer obsession. And of course, since I focus on customer research and insights that inform your positioning, messaging, and go to market strategy, that is part of the calendar as well, because that is also not just saying you're customer obsessed, but being customer obsessed. So, yeah, you'll see that in the coming days once I finish it up. So, head of product marketing, I do want to touch on this because you were head of growth and ops, and then you switched to head of growth and product marketing. And I want to talk about, well, what is product marketing? Like, what does that mean to you guys at Navattic, and what are you planning to do as part of that role?
It's funny because this kind of came out of the event where we've been thinking about adding another marketing person. We weren't exactly sure what we're going to do. And one thing we kind of kept hearing from our customers, because we did do a little bit of like, hey, here are some big new, features to come, is them telling us like, oh, I don't really ever know about your guys' new features. And I think part of that was where we're at as a stage. Like we've hired a lot of engineers who are incredible, pumping out insane features, but we almost like weren't keeping up with that. And because I believe so much in like, I love to talk about the customer story first, I think sometimes I've almost been a little averse to product marketing because I don't want to, for being an interactive demo company, that's very ironic, but I want to be careful we're not just talking about ourselves too much. But it made me really think about like, okay, what would our product marketing strategy be at Navattic? So the goal of it was one, to educate customers and just like, again, through more storytelling or like narrative ways of the new features we have. So not just, hey, look at these cool new AI features, but maybe a story of a customer using them, or a story of, we recognized or we were getting feedback that this was difficult. This is how we make it faster, easier. By the way, it's using AI. So part of that was just introducing new features. And then also part of it was Navattic and interactive demos. It's a very competitive landscape now. And our buyers, we would get feedback all the time of like, but how are you guys different? Like, please, we need more information. So actually to create a better buying experience and ultimately customer experience, we realized like, it seems weird that you need to do customer enablement to make happier buyers, but it was kind of clear of like, no, they really did need a little more information. And it was sort of a frustrating point in the buying experience.
Yeah. Did you have to go through like I mean, you had to think about positioning yourself and differentiating yourself from the very beginning. But then as more competition started to appear, do you find that your point of differentiation is unique enough? Are you still working on it? Like, where are you at right now in terms of standing apart from everybody else? I just had this conversation with a client today, and I was like, oh my gosh, guys, we're talking about we're trying to position ourselves, but really when our prospects talk about their challenges and how they're trying to solve the challenge, it's at a whole different level. Like, are we building a new category here? Is this actually happening like naturally? I wasn't trying to push that on them,
Mm.
right? But it's kind of a natural thing. Like, we don't really we don't play with any of those things that they're talking about. We're in a completely new category, and maybe there are other players that are also trying to play in this category, but that's only better for us because people need to be educated about that, right? So it's not a bad thing. But how are you thinking about like your positioning and repositioning trajectory over time?
I think we've always had similar positioning when you look at the market as like a whole. Like one thing we really value is not just building demos, but building ones that will be successful, giving you data, best practices, also aligning ourselves with this concept of like we're creating a better buying experience. Like that sort of overall messaging and differentiation hasn't changed. I think the nuances of when someone's like, no, but tell me exactly how you differ from this one competitor, that's what's constantly evolving, because also they're constantly evolving their positioning, they're constantly evolving their feature set. So we had our like overarching messaging, but it was when prospects really wanted to get into the weeds that would be a little bit harder. So also someone just to like stay on top of, what is going on in the market. And how do we compare for, when everyone's constantly changing or there are new interactive demos popping up, just making sure we have answers to that.
Totally. Yeah. One thing that I think about as AI and copycat products are popping up, right? There's just a lot more competition for everyone out there. And so there's a book I'm reading. It's called Audacious, and it's by Mark Schaefer. And so he talks about this idea of we now have no choice because there's copycat products out there. We now have to really push ourselves and get creative and think about how we can be audacious. Does that ever come up like in your conversations and how you're really going to differentiate? Because like those feature conversations come up probably later, but at the top of the funnel to create awareness around Navattic specifically, like why Navattic? I get it. It's interactive demo. There's other companies to look at, but you want them to latch onto you. So do you guys talk about that? Like how to be just like bold and audacious?
This is the one thing that I actually don't think has changed since like the beginning of our marketing. And I think it ties really well to this whole theme of like being customer first. This maybe doesn't sound like the boldest thing, but I think really keeping true to your like persona, your value, and your mission is sort of our bold or audacious thing. Like that doesn't sound like anything big, but we've decided from the beginning that our branding is going to be, again, like very customer focused, very customer first. We're not going to be overly splashy talking about ourselves. I feel like I went into a lot of this in the episode where I talk about the white shoe theory of we just want to be everywhere. And almost the audacious thing is like sticking to that in everything we do, so that when people hear about Navattic, they're like, oh, right, I have heard about it from like 3 or 4 other people. And they all seem to have a positive thing, like keeping that cohesive messaging and narrative. So when other competitors maybe are trying new things or going different places, we'll almost stand out for staying stable and firm in what we believe in. So it's kind of a boring answer, but honestly, like we have seen over time how much that adds up and accumulates when you can just like have that clear positioning, messaging, and just like stay with being known for the main thing, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and it is not boring. I don't believe that there is like your approach to positioning, messaging, go to market strategy is not boring. First of all, it's working. So you're hitting on something that works, and it is unique to you because I do find that especially early stage, you tend to forget what your core is, right? Forget what the vision is and kind of stray and sometimes test a little too far to the side. And you guys stay true to like, why did you start this company in the first place? Who are you doing this for? Why are you doing it in such a way? And I think that resonates with your buyers and with your partners. And so, no, I don't think that's boring at all. It is the Navattic vision. It is the Navattic way. So I want to highlight that. Yeah, I love this. Okay, so at the end, I always like to ask, do you have any questions for me? Maybe you do.
This is actually a question I'm coming up with on the spot.
Yes.
As you're doing this whole theme about obviously more customer marketing, being more customer focused, are you seeing that there are more, and I know you mostly work with early stage startups, but like, are you seeing founders are thinking about when they're hiring marketers? Is this a trait that they're looking for? Or is this even like a role, more customer marketing that you're seeing?
So with early stage startups, on the hiring front, I don't think that founders really think about, I need a customer marketer. I think they just need a marketer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the right approach. You need a generalist who can do a bunch of things and help you grow. And Emily Kramer talks about this a lot too. So it's just part of the work, you know? And when I work with my clients and we talk about what is marketing, because it's a loaded term, and we need to think about marketing as it applies to top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, right? Even though that doesn't necessarily match the customer journey because they're finding out word of mouth all over the place, right? But we at least need to fill the gaps and fill the holes and make sure that we're doing the things we're supposed to be doing. We start at the very bottom first. Like, at the bottom of the funnel, we have a website, we have testimonials, if people are intrigued, do we have our positioning, messaging, website, testimonials, social proof, good meetings with our current customers, good experiences where that will help drive word of mouth? We start there and that they're like, yeah, that makes sense. No one's ever been like, no, Anna, let's start at the top where we're just creating awareness, forget about our customers. So I don't see customer marketing at early stage being something to like necessarily look for someone with that experience. It's just kind of like an expectation that it needs to be something that the marketer knows. Probably as the company grows and you focus more on the customer marketing pieces, I don't know how big the company has to get, but you'll probably need more resources to help in that regard because there's just like so much. And you'll see from my 30 days of customer obsession calendar, there is so much that we can do when we truly are obsessed with our customers. And you know how much work goes into it because you're doing it, Natalie. You are this is like marketing needs to also be at early stage startups. Like marketing is also customer success. Like you don't always have a truly built out customer success team. So one person I had on the show was Megan Bowen from Refined Labs because she is a customer success expert. And we talked about the idea of like she fully understands this and believes this, but at the early stage, you don't always have that customer success team. You have your founder, your salesperson, and if you're lucky, the marketer and the engineers, and that's your team. So marketing oftentimes has to take on like that customer success and put that hat on. So yeah, I think I rambled on, but just to say like it is a lot of work and you probably can't just do this on your own forever. So at some point you probably want to round out the team and have customer marketing specific expertise. I do remember on the podcast, actually, I had a conversation with someone and we talked about the customer love team.
Mhm.
And now I'm going to want to look it up because she actually has she built out a team that's customer love, very specific to this whole idea. So I'm going to look that up and maybe link to it in the show notes. But yeah, I think that, like, my belief around customer obsession. And so what do you think?
I'm not surprised to hear, like, I wasn't really expecting them to be hiring customer marketers because, to your point, I think early stage, you just have to be a generalist. But I do think, to your point, a more bottom of funnel, it's kind of what you need out of a marketer early stage. I think that's also why a lot of people hire product marketers early on, because product marketers are usually like pretty good at talking to customers, thinking through more bottom of funnel resources. But I'm thinking in this world where word of mouth is going to be more and more important for how people evaluate and buy software, rather than going after for that first hire someone who's maybe really good, like lead demand gen, are we going to see more people going after that like product marketer, customer marketing role just because first thing they really need to do is just like get happy customers and get them talking about it.
Natalie, that's brilliant. And I think you're onto something. And I think probably yes. I mean, we always needed to think about marketing in these terms and how important word of mouth is because word of mouth is really all we have. Like, the truth is, we work on all this marketing, like white papers and the podcast and the blog posts and the social content. And most of what works out there is, especially towards like the later part of the funnel, is when somebody asks someone, are you using Navattic? What do you think? And like has that conversation. And I think that that's just kind of how it's always been. So there needs to be more of a focus on how do we ramp that up? How do we make word of mouth work for us in a way that is natural. When this happens naturally, that's the best. It's like when customer referrals happen naturally. I love to hear that. I had Elaine Zelby on the podcast, and she's founder at Tofu. And I was like, how do you handle like customer referrals? And she's like, I don't, it just happens naturally. And that's the best, right? That's what you want. And I don't think that that is necessarily something that naturally happens. Sometimes you need to maybe create some kind of a spark or some kind of strategy behind that. But when it does happen naturally, that's what you want. And so I don't know if you have thoughts on that, but
100%. And I mean, I think while this always was happening, now we have LinkedIn, we have Slack communities, we have Reddit, we have like so many ways to access people to ask them if they're using your software. So I just think it's like it's inevitable that people are going to ask. I see it happen all the time in like every community I'm in. People are asking whenever I'm going to conferences, people are asking what tools are you using? So I just don't think it's something you can really ignore anymore, especially with how connected people can be digitally.
Yeah. The hard part about word of mouth is I think it's just a hard concept for people to grasp. Like, yeah, I want people talking about Navattic, but how? Right?
Yeah, I feel
Go
like how
ahead.
most other channels have like, this is a playbook to get more LinkedIn ad leads, or this is a playbook to get more Google Ads leads. There aren't many things that are directly like, this is how you get more word of mouth leads. And part of that's because there probably isn't one standard playbook that works too well, because it depends like, where does your audience live? Where do they chat? How do they get information? Like word of mouth looks different for different industries. So I think it's very easy because it isn't just like plug and play for people not to do it. And obviously very hard to attribute.
What do you think is the number one driver of word of mouth for Navattic?
Yeah, probably a mix. I actually have this, and like we very much do. How did you hear about us? Attribution. It's a mix of people who will literally write things like "saw from my colleague," "saw on LinkedIn," word of mouth. Because we sell to marketers, people will just put word of mouth, which is hilarious. But also for us, something that plays into word of mouth is people will see an interactive demo on another website and have a good experience with that, and then maybe we'll ask the team like, "Oh, I saw this. I saw you had this demo. What do you think?" So we usually see like customer tour, which is they went through another interactive demo, or general word of mouth is like one of our top 4 lead sources.
Awesome. Love it. That was a great question to ask, by the way, and just a well-rounded conversation around a lot of things. So, Natalie, you're my all-star guest here on the show. You are always welcome to come back, and I love following your journey, and congrats on the role in product marketing. And so, yeah, I had a blast as usual. If anybody wants to find Natalie, she is on LinkedIn, Natalie Marcotullio. And you better go check out Navattic if you haven't yet at navattic.com. Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Building with Buyers. New episodes drop weekly, so make sure you're following wherever you get your podcasts. You can find me on LinkedIn, Anna Furmanov. Visit my website to learn more about how to turn customer insights into positioning and messaging your buyers will understand. FurmanovMarketing.com. And don't forget to leave a review if you're loving the show.